There are moments when you pray for a miracle and then the situation gets worse. Moments when you finally reach Jesus, but before the answer comes, the news you feared most arrives. It's too late. That was the moment Jairus faced. His little daughter was dying, and Jairus was running out of time. He had no idea what Jesus would do. He only knew one thing: he needed Jesus. Jairus was a ruler of the synagogue. He was respected. He had a position. People knew his name, but none of that mattered now, because his daughter was sick, and she was getting worse. Every moment mattered, so Jairus went searching for Jesus. When he found him, he didn't stand proudly before the crowd. He fell at Jesus' feet, and he begged him, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Please come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live." Jesus heard him, and he went with Jairus. Imagine the relief Jairus must have felt. Jesus was coming, the one who had healed the sick, the one who had performed miracles, the one who had power over sickness and suffering, was walking toward his house. Maybe Jairus thought, "We're going to make it." But then Jesus stopped. A crowd was pressing around him, and another desperate person had reached out in faith. Jesus stopped to speak with her. He took time to help her, but Jairus was waiting. His daughter was still at home, and every second felt like an eternity. Perhaps he kept looking toward the road. Perhaps he wondered why they weren't moving. Perhaps his heart was screaming, "Jesus, we don't have time." And then someone arrived from his house. The messenger looked at Jairus and spoke the words that shattered whatever hope remained. "Your daughter is dead." Then came the cruelest part. Why trouble the teacher any further? It's easy to believe when there is still hope. But what happens when the situation looks completely finished? What happens when the doctor says there's nothing more to do? When the relationship is gone? When the opportunity has passed? When the door has closed? When the thing you've prayed for seems dead? Jairus stood there with those words ringing in his ears. "Your daughter is dead." But Jesus heard them too. And before fear could completely take over Jairus' heart, Jesus turned to him and said, "Do not be afraid, only believe." Think about those words. Jesus didn't tell Jairus that the situation looked good. He didn't pretend that death hadn't happened. He simply told him, "Do not be afraid, only believe." Then Jesus continued walking. He didn't turn around. He didn't give up. He kept going, and Jairus followed. Even when he didn't understand, even when everything looked hopeless, he kept walking with Jesus. When they arrived at the house, there was already a crowd. People were crying. People were mourning. The atmosphere was heavy with grief. Jesus looked around and said something that sounded impossible. "Why are you making a commotion and weeping? The child is not dead but sleeping." They laughed at him. They knew what had happened. They thought Jesus was wrong. But Jesus wasn't concerned with their laughter. He sent the crowd outside. Then he entered the room. Only a few people went with him. Jairus, the child's mother, and his disciples. And there, in the quiet room, was the little girl. Everything had gone silent. No crowd, no shouting, no arguing. Just Jesus and a child who could no longer respond. Jesus walked toward her, and he took her by the hand. Then he spoke two words, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl got up. She began to walk. Everyone in the room was amazed. The same situation that looked completely hopeless had changed in the presence of Jesus. Jairus had come to Jesus because his daughter was dying. Then came the news, she's dead. But Jesus kept walking. And perhaps that's the part of this story you need today. Maybe you've been praying about something, and instead of getting better, it seems to be getting worse. Maybe you thought Jesus would answer by now. Maybe you thought the door would have opened. Maybe you thought the healing would have come. Maybe you are standing in a place where someone has told you, "It's over, it's too late, there's nothing you can do." But remember Jairus. When the messenger said it was over, Jesus was still walking toward his house. When everyone else saw an ending, Jesus was still moving. When people laughed, Jesus entered the room. And when everything looked dead, Jesus spoke, "Arise." This doesn't mean every prayer will be answered in exactly the way we expect, but it means something just as important. Jesus is not frightened by the things that frighten you. Your impossible situation does not make him powerless. Your darkest moment does not make him absent. And what looks like the end to you is never beyond his authority. So if you're waiting today, don't let fear make your decisions. If you're discouraged, don't let one piece of bad news become the final word over your life. If you've been praying, keep walking with Jesus. Just like Jairus, he didn't understand the delay. He didn't understand the news. He didn't know what Jesus was going to do, but he kept following. And eventually, he watched Jesus walk into the room everyone else had already given up on. Maybe you're standing beside something in your life that feels beyond repair. Maybe you're holding on to a prayer you've almost stopped praying. Maybe you've heard the words, "It's too late." But remember the words Jesus spoke to Jairus. Do not be afraid, only believe. You don't have to know how Jesus will work. You don't have to understand the timing. You don't have to see the whole road. Just keep walking with him, because Jairus learned something that day. Jesus doesn't need the situation to look hopeful before he can bring hope into it. He only needs you to keep trusting him. And when Jesus finally entered that room, he took the little girl's hand. He spoke, and she arose. The house that had been filled with mourning was filled with wonder, and the father, who had arrived desperate, stood there watching his daughter alive. So if you're in a season where everything feels silent, keep believing. If you're waiting, keep walking. If you're afraid, remember Jesus' words. Do not be afraid, only believe. Because sometimes, while you are looking at what seems like the end, Jesus is still on the way.